it was quite amazing to see the morning session, and I'm going to do something slightly different by not presenting the company, not telling how many years I've been working on the Internet of Things, since 14 years, and then showing commercials of my company. I think that's quite weird. The only goal I'm having today is that you walk out and think slightly different about a few things you have to think about up front before you start doing something on the Internet of Things. And in the beginning we were a little bit curious about, will anybody show up, because it's quite empty in this room. And I've seen this happening before, that it's driven by technology, and at the end a lot of technology focused people are following the technology sessions, but they're not really listening like, what are we really solving over here? And I'm going to use a few examples. So I'm not selling anything except this. So I'm having actually last week's newspaper over here. Now show me your money. Who wants to buy the last week's newspaper? Maybe for 1 cent? It's really a commodity. It's old paper. What do you get for old paper? But it wasn't actually last week's newspaper, it's actually today's newspaper. Now, I'm a good salesman. There's some new data. It's an Antwerp newspaper, a Belgian one. Maybe I'm getting the market price for this one, a few euros. Anybody? But now I get a very interesting paper. I got next week's newspaper. Who want this one? With all the stock numbers? The lottery numbers, all those things. So if you can look into the future and predict slightly what the data is going to look like, then you're actually solving something. And now you need a few things that can actually help you in knowing those things and making the decisions for you real time. And it will all be about the data. Same thing over here. I love this slide. And in the back you can't read it, but in the front either. It's a Chinese one, but I think that it's getting updated every few years about all the things that will be extinct in 100 years. And if I zoom out on a few things, you will see between 2010 2030, coins, desktop computers, yeah, very straightforward. That's going to be gone. But also your keys. And I like people to look forward. If you're getting bored, just read it. If keys are getting lost or keys will disappear in the future, it's not about replacing it with a kind of an RFID or something else. They really need to be gone. So if I walk around and I do see some keys over here, when are those keys useful to me? Those are not mine. It's a Mercedes. I think there are plenty of those.
If you can find the car.
If I can find a car. So there is some context related to this key, and otherwise it's useless. So if we're going to drop the keys, is this yours probably? If we're going to drop the keys in the future, you have to think about those things in a slightly different way. I joined TAS Technology Solutions, which is really a technical company, but I worked for a business software company for many years. So if you have very technical questions later on, I have a few colleagues of mine who will be down at the booth to ask them those technical questions. But I like to talk on a different level. I did build, together with the previous company, a product which was named the Enterprise Service Bus, and afterwards the industry actually took over this name, an Enterprise Service Bus. Essentially what they want to achieve was, if I have one application, a purchasing application, and I have a logistics application or something else, and they're totally independent, they need to talk to each other. And you do exactly the same things. You start talking about connectivity, availability, and so on. But at the end, they also need to understand each other. And even 8 years ago, Gartner was already writing a lot of reports about those things, like you need services to make that one a successful thing. So to build a service-oriented architecture, you need to build services around them, otherwise it doesn't work. That's a basic component to have a service in a service-oriented architecture. I didn't hear the word service-oriented architecture once today. Anybody else who heard it?
No.
Well, if you look in an Internet of Things and you don't approach it as an outside-in service, what do you expect from me, from my thing to tell you? Then it will not work. So maybe we can map a few of those lessons learned in the past, what they learned in the business software, and now look back on the Internet of Things. So imagine an Internet of Things without any services. Look at those things. Well, if I have some data, but I don't know the context of the data, can things go wrong? And how important is real time? And I really truly believe by having the Internet of Things today, that the missing link of having real-time events, and they are capturing data, is the missing link to make the real service-oriented architecture successful. So this is kind of a work session. Think about every single individual today, what you did this morning. I'm trying to explain what a real service is, because we think in a very ABC stepped approach. So what did you do this morning? What are the actions you did? I had a shave, and I did some other things. Put some clothes on, took a shower, got some juice, and immediately there are some people say, oh, that doesn't make any sense. You put some clothes on. But it only makes sense if you put those actions, those tasks, on a timeline. And now, who has exactly the same timeline as I did this morning? By showing hands. Nobody. And still we think, if we sell something to a customer, that in their business process, their business is doing exactly the same thing. And if it works over here, I will use this at another customer, and they will do exactly the same thing. That's not true. Every case is different. So you need to have the flexibility to swap around. And I think your combination will be in there somehow. But things are also getting more complex. I got 2 kids. They have to go to school. And my employer still expects me to be at work at 8:30. So those things are getting added on top of my timeline. And for me, the only way to fix this one is to have a good agreement with my wife. And I'm offloading some of the services, sorry to say it this way, to another timeline in parallel. And then we're actually talking about using a service with a very clear agreement and a very clear communication, like, can you bring the kids to school today? Yes, and I can be guaranteed that my wife will bring them to school. But that's the way you also need to look at the very smallest item on the Internet of Things. If they are going to play a specific role in your solution, you need to be able to communicate to them and also understand them. And that's also a difficult thing. So now I can also start optimizing my flow. If it's a long drive and I still have to be at work at 8:30, then I can optimize my business process. This has nothing to do with IT. I think this comes across quite familiar, but still this is what you need in your software solutions. Now, still forgetting about IT and how IT has grown, if you look at any business process, it's actually, a process is a link of tasks. And then they said we're going to computerize everything. I'm not going to duplicate data on every step like they did on old papers. Can you do this? And then you think something, you check something and you do the next thing. I said, no, let's put it in a database. But everything was data oriented. If we can cover the data, then we're fine. Next step was, well, maybe there are other processes or other tools that can actually access exactly the same data. Not the service, the data. The focus was around having consistent data. I don't want to have my name twice in a system somewhere, only once. So a very data-oriented world. Well, things have changed today. Then they started integrated services, but I call it more the API approach. And I see we are working in embedded software today, developing and designing television sets. those designers are thinking in APIs. If I buy a screen somewhere, this is the API to talk to the platform, and this is the API to talk to the data source. But you need to have the flexibility to change your API real time, because you don't know where the data will be coming from tomorrow. So in the interoperability, and I personally think a lot of presentations are talking about interoperability. I can connect to you. Yeah, I'm happy. It's about connecting different systems. The next step is, yeah, let's focus on the services for others and really talk about the service. So I'm defining every task as a service based on what does the outside want me to do, from the outside in approach. Yeah? And that's where an enterprise service bus gets in place. Business applications or certain business services will connect to a platform as a service. The missing link in the business software was the black boxes. I have a black box somewhere, maybe this one, let's be careful. Maybe this can play a role in my business process. Maybe the fire alarm can play a role in my business process. And what you need, you can then actually loosely couple a service to other services, and then one and one will be three actually. They will have much more value. But every service by itself has to be an independent thing that's the greatest of its kind. And that's where we actually evolve to business process orientation, because the business is changing as we are sitting over here. And we need to have the agility. I know there's a lot of agile development methods and so on, but agility was already known in the business itself, where you say, I need to be able to change my business process today because the market has changed yesterday. Now in history in general, it was about the data. And what we did, we captured the data, then we actually stored the data in a database, then we actually analyzed it, and then we took an action. Nowadays, once data is in a database, it's old. The data is in the event itself. I'm pressing a button, that's an important event, not that I'm pressing a button to confirm my order transaction and then I'm doing stock transactions. I press the button, that's a certain event I have to react to very quickly. So we're looking at the past tense. We have a difficulty in finding a correlation about the moving stream of events. What does it actually mean? And I will give you an example later on, because that's where you're really going to create benefit on the Internet of Things. And if we start analyzing things which are not in the past or not in one single instance, but we are looking time and spatial into account, we don't know how to analyze those things. I'm taking a decision on something that happens now because 2 minutes ago this happened and within a minute something else will happen. How do you, even the best Excel wizard, if they have data somewhere, they cannot analyze those things. It's a completely different setup. So who is not from the Netherlands? A few. Who's from Belgium? Okay, 2 of us. We all speak Dutch. But in Belgium, we wear a toque on our head. Because this is a toque. If you go horseback riding, this is the helmet. We call it a toque. For the Dutch, it's something slightly different. Same language. The school language is exactly the same thing. I can guarantee you, you will look foolish with that kind of thing on your head. And so are many, many words that are different. So same words, different context, different meaning. And I'm going to tell you a very short story which actually happened 9 years ago, because my youngest daughter is 9 years old and she was a newborn. We had to go to Vegas, Las Vegas, to do a similar kind of presentation. my wife went with me, also the baby girl, because I traveled a lot and you need to save the marriage a little bit, so everybody traveled with me. So you arrive over there at 12 o'clock at night. Everybody is very tired, and then my wife said, I still need some diapers, which makes sense. So I was looking at the business process. It's late. We need to find a shop in Vegas. Let's optimize everything. I get a cab. I go to the shop. I ask the shop assistant where the diapers are. Get out. The cab is waiting, optimizing everything. So we are rushing to the store. I'm getting in a hurry. You're the shop assistant. Say, I need some diapers quickly. And the guy, oh, aisle 5. I go to row number 5, looking for some diapers. Plenty of diapers, all adults. All adult diapers. I'm quite upset. I go to the shop assistant, say, I don't get you. I'm asking for diapers and you're sending me for adult diapers while I have a baby girl in the car. Oh, but those are baby diapers, sir. Row number 2, get my diapers. And I went back home. In the cab, I was telling this story to my wife, and the cab driver said, Guy, you need to understand, a diaper in Las Vegas is an adult diaper, because 80% of the people over here are over 80. So we thought that we were communicating, but the context of Las Vegas is totally different. Now translate this one to 2 Internet of Things devices, and they start talking to each other, and they're missing some of the context. Where can things go wrong? Very dangerous thing that might happen. So the world has changed, and we are driven by the speed of real-time business. If you look at what happened with the post, and not email post, but the physical post, that became express mail, became faxes, email, and real-time transactions. And these are kind of the service level agreements you have with the postal office and the service level agreements you have with email. The market has changed where something that took 4 weeks to actually build your own PC and get it ordered and have it shipped, or maybe order a new kind of furniture, we expect things to be on your doorstep in 1 day. And that's a fact. And the whole world has changed. If I look at your phone activation, in the early days it took at least a week, 3 days a week. Now, if it's not within a minute, I'm quite unsatisfied about the service of this provider. And if you go much higher, anybody knows algorithmic trading? Yeah. So that's trading on a stock exchange, not based on, because if a stockbroker, a human person, needs to decide, good deal, I'm going to buy it, is already too slow. Algorithmic trading is actually sensing everything, all the news around the world, all the other stock options, and they will take a decision based on the computing speed to buy and sell stocks. That went from 100 milliseconds to 20 milliseconds. That's a very big and lucrative, also dangerous business. But that's where the Internet of Things is important. What else can I trap as data, analyze, and do something with? Yeah? So to summarize, I actually picked up the speed a little bit. Who has a credit card? Everybody? Who ever had, let's say, fraud transactions on their own credit card that it actually was abused by others? Mine. Yeah. Who actually took care of it? Yourself or the credit card company? Who actually spotted it? Yourself? Very well done. Anybody else? It was credit card company or yourself? Myself. I was using Visa. I came back home and my wife said, you got a new Visa card with a whole letter. So in your trip, and I wasn't too long, it was 1 week. I said, in the meanwhile, we noticed that there was a fraud happening on your Visa card. We canceled it. We ordered a new one, and here it is. And by the way, we refunded all the money ourselves. Good service. They were able to do this because in my profile, they saw that I was only using it for hotels, flights, but not to buy some things at the gas station. That didn't make sense. It didn't fit my profile. So that was an alert. But those guys are doing this in a static way, looking back at the records. Me as a customer, I was happy. Didn't lose any money, good service, and so on. But Visa is still losing money. Of course, they are insured, but they're paying very high insurance fees to have this. So now the interesting case is, if we can spot every transaction that's happening real time and have a correlator looking at those things, then in this stream, this time event, I can detect, for instance, a very simple one. I'm using my credit card over here, and the same credit card is being used within 2 minutes in the south of America. I cannot travel that fast. That's a very easy one. The second one should be an illegal one, or maybe the first one. So being able to trap the correlation over there and say, this is complex event processing, real time. When I see that this credit card is being asked for authorization 3 times, do a rollback, cancel the transaction, and actually do not do the transaction and catch the thief if you can. Yeah? So I didn't present anything. I didn't present the company, but I truly hope that I opened up some of your minds on those things. And I have a lot of stories where I actually look at how can I make money, not in a commercial way, but also a cost-saving way, by optimizing my business. And then you will notice that some of the CEOs, they know the business very well, but they don't understand what technology can bring them today. And trying to sell it only as a technology solution is not going to work. So it's kind of a two-paced thing. And telling the CEO, imagine if this would be possible. And they say, yeah, that would be great, but technology can't. Yes, it can. And that's the second phase. So, summarize, everything you build, you have to be the best in class on yourself as a standalone thing, but you also have to be able to play well with others once you connect, because there will be service level agreements. If your end-to-end service is relying to somebody you don't know and they are not complying to their SLA, that's where most of the things fail. I need to guarantee you a response time of 2 seconds. And I'm relying on another device in between, and they are not promising a 2-second response time or less, then you're in trouble. Really understand and contextualize the data you get. And I heard it during the general sessions. I worked for Amadeus. Anybody who knows Amadeus? If you do a travel booking, 9 out of 10, the back office, which is still an old mainframe machine, is handled by Amadeus. Any hotel booking, car booking, flight booking is going to a mainframe system, and the ticket is happening over there. If you look at the data, I know that telco, they have a common data model, and I know that people are using cell phones, internet, television, and probably get one bill at home. A lot of you do. In reality, if you look into their systems, your data is being replicated to those 3 old systems in the back end. But telco actually created what they call a common data model. That a person like Magnus is a customer with his first name Magnus. Healthcare also. But travel, for instance, no. Amadeus is still thinking, yeah, we're going to be the biggest one. So we will set the standard how data is going to be visualized and defined within the travel industry. Because they're still struggling with those things. And even in the early days, if you look at EDI messaging, EDI tie, how to submit by fax or by modem a certain order, that used to be a common standard across the world. But at the end, if a small supplier and a big Albert Heijn or another one, who will define the standard? It will be Albert Heijn. And those are the challenges you need to cope if you are communicating data across the world. Always be online with the highest security, reliability, failovers, and so on. A guaranteed delivery. How well can you guarantee your service? because you have to play in the real-time mode. That's my talk. Thank you. If you want to have more talks, meet us at the test booth, or maybe there's still a few talks over here.
Thank you a lot, Don.
Thank you.